All praises to the Most High, brothers and sisters. I'm your host, the Apostle Reuben of IUPR Bible Radio. Podcasting out of Little Rock, Arkansas to the saints of the Most High. Going forward to the kingdom. Happy Sabbath, brothers and sisters. Happy Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom. I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that if you can get some of that sunshine. It's good for the skin, good for the soul, too, to look up into God's creation and giving all praises to the Most High. Well, let's get into it. I'm not going, my love is there, but your love is truly there to see your brothers and sisters learn things that the Christian church don't teach, because we're showing you that that being in these churches locked away without knowledge is a bad thing. It's a bad thing, brothers and sisters. So I want to begin in 1 Peter 1 verse 10, because I'm going to say this, then I'm going to read it. The three prophets and prophecies Christians avoid. The three prophets and prophecies Christians avoid. We're going to look at it today. But 1 Peter 1 and 10. Of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently. Also they search. Search what? Scriptures. Who prophesied of the grace that should come unto you. Prophesied now. So they prophesied that grace would come unto a nation. We're not going to go into that this podcast episode, because it would take about a good 10 minutes and I don't have time. But we're going to go through it. I've already went through it, but we're going to go through it again in its separate podcast episode. But what I wanted you to see was this. Verse 11, 1 Peter 1:11. Searching what manner of time the Spirit of Christ. Do you know what that is? The Spirit of Christ is the Holy Spirit, which was in them. So the Holy Spirit was in the prophets in the Old Testament. The Spirit was in them, did signify. And when it testified beforehand of the sufferings of Christ and the glory that should follow. See? The glory that should follow. So they prophesied of the glory that should come after the suffering, after the shame. It wasn't just the suffering, it was the glory. So the Old Testament prophets had the Holy Ghost. The preachers in Sunday church, they don't want to admit that. Because now that or if we was to know that the Holy Ghost was in the prophets in the Old Testament, now there's no doubt that the Spirit revealed what the prophets wrote. So it can't be a lie. But I want to show you this. Let's go over 3 scriptures real quick. Let's go to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 1. Nope, not Luke chapter 1, but Luke chapter 7, verse 16. Luke 7, verse 16. Watch this. And there came fear on all, and they glorified God, saying, that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God has visited his people. What are they talking about here? Christ. We're talking about Christ in this verse. He was a prophet. So I want to go back to Deuteronomy 18. Now, a lot of you would, I'm not going to say anything. Deuteronomy 18. Deuteronomy 18, because this is about getting done. We have to get done today. I don't want to make any extra comments. Deuteronomy 18:15, I'm going to read on down. And the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet. Raised up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like it says in Luke 7:16, a prophet from among us, like unto me. Unto him shall ye hearken. Listen, according to all thou desirest of the Lord thy God in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire anymore, that I die not. Let's drop down, because I want to look at this. And the Lord said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. Pay attention. I will raise them is Israel, not all nations, them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. Verse 19. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. You're going to be judged. Don't listen to this prophet. You're going to be judged. Now let's move on. I just want to read by that real quick because I'm showing you something. John, the Apostle John, chapter 1, real quick, verse 45. John 1:45. Philip findeth Nathanael, and said unto him, we have found him, in whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, the Messiah of Nazareth, son of Joseph, not son of an angel, son of Joseph, from among his brethren. But Christ was that prophet prophesying in his time. But Moses foretold in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 18 that God would send him to Israel. Here's the proof. Moses in the law and the prophets did write. So there, what you see here, Moses in the law and the prophets did write, is Deuteronomy 18:15 through 18. Or 19, excuse me. Deuteronomy 18:15 to 19 was a prophecy of Christ coming up from among his brethren, born of a man and a woman. I just had to throw that in there. So let's go to Matthew 24. I got a lot. Matthew 24. Verse 29. Now I'm starting here for a reason, because we're going to review the prophecy. Now, Christians teach that Christ is going to come down in his second coming, a secret rapture before the tribulation. It's the reason why they made that up, because they made it up. It's not even close to being true. Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. Whose tribulation? Who's going to be in tribulation? The book of Deuteronomy 4:30. Christians, I'm giving you this, brothers and sisters. I really didn't have time to go into this, but I'm giving you this for a reason. Deuteronomy 4, and I'm going to show you tribulation. I'm going to show you. I'm going to read this real quick. Now I'm going to do some reading. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead you. And there you shall serve other gods. Serve other gods. The work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor smell, nor eat nor smell. Excuse me there. But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him. If thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. So if you Israelites in another nation among heathens serving other gods, getting slaughtered, remember, and you shall be left few in number. So there will be trouble for you among these heathens. It's not like you're just going to go through these heathens without trouble. God is letting them know. That's why it says from among the heathen now, but if from thence is where you are among the heathen, thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him. If thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Pay attention. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the last days. The latter days is the last days now. God's giving you a prophecy of who would be in tribulation. All nations were never prophesied to go into tribulation. No, brothers and sisters. The Christians avoid these. When thou art in tribulation, you Israelites, all nations again were never prophesied to go through tribulation. This is the Christian lie. Oh, all of us going through tribulation. No, that's not what the Bible says. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days, the last days, if thou shalt turn to the Lord thy God, and shall be obedient to his voice. His voice is the 10 Commandments. All you have to do is go, brothers and sisters, go to Genesis 26:5. Let me go to it. Let me show you. The priesthood hadn't even existed yet. The priesthood haven't even existed. Genesis 26:5. Let me go here real quick. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments and my statutes and my laws. Levi wasn't even born yet. But Abraham had the law. He has a law. What law did he receive? Real quick. What law did he receive? Psalms 105. What law did Abraham receive? We're going to do this real quick. Psalms 105. Verse 8. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded 1,000 generations. So we looking at it now. Pay attention. He hath remembered his covenant forever, and the word which he commanded 1,000 generations. 1,000 now. Which covenant he made with Abraham. The covenant of 1,000 generations he made with Abraham. And his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel, the 12 tribes, for an everlasting covenant. It went from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel. That's it. What was that? Let's go to Deuteronomy 7 and 9. Deuteronomy 7, verse 9. Deuteronomy 7, verse 9. Let's take a look at what this law was he gave Abraham. Deuteronomy 7 and 9, just real quick. Know therefore. Where am I going here? I'm trying to look up something else. But let me read this. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments 1,000 generations. There it is. Remember, in the book of Psalms 105, verse 9, it tells you. Verse 10, I mean. Psalms 105, verse 10. It tells you, brothers, excuse me, I'm off. I'm going to get it together because I know I got a lot of reading to do. I'm trying to hurry. So let me slow it down. Deuteronomy 7 and 9. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Let me get my reading right because I'm excited. But I don't edit these things out. I don't need to. I'm reading loads and loads and loads and loads of scriptures and interpreting them too by the book. So I'm not worried about what people think. But I wanted to show you this. Which keepeth covenant and mercy. Covenant and mercy. Which of the commandments were mercy? Which of the commandments were mercy? Deuteronomy 5 and 10. And showing mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The commandments of mercy was the 10. The commandments of mercy was the 10. This is the first of the 10. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it is part of the 10. That was the law that gave mercy. Abraham had it. But just proving to you in that little sequence that Moses was not the first to receive those laws of mercy. It was Abraham hundreds of years before. So let's go back to Matthew 24. Just wanted to show you that real quick. Matthew 24 and verse 29. And wait a minute. Before I get Matthew 24, 29, excuse me, hold on. Jeremiah. Because, I left. Sometimes you get thrown off by where you're going. It was about the tribulation, who was in the tribulation, but I had to prove that in a sense to show people. Just a little something that I added on. But Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Again, Jacob's trouble is tribulation. The only ones in tribulation is Israel. Daniel 12. Daniel chapter 12. Verse 1. Daniel 12 and 1. I want y'all to pay attention. Daniel 12 and 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, tribulation, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people, it does not say all people, thy people. Who is Daniel's people? Daniel chapter 9. Got to prove all things, brothers and sisters. Got to prove all things. Daniel chapter 9, verse 20. Pay attention now. Daniel 9 and 20. And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel. Daniel's people was Israel, wasn't all nations. And presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God. So Daniel's people were Israelites. So here's what the angel reveals to him. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even at that same time. Here's why the Christians, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, here's what the Christians are doing. They're avoiding these. 3 verses tells us that only Israel is going to be in tribulation. One more time. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, tribulation, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people, only Daniel's people, shall be delivered. Wow. So out of that tribulation, only Daniel's people will be delivered. Didn't say all nations will be delivered, because all nations are not going to be in tribulation. Everyone that shall be found written in the book, and that's the book of life. If you're not in that book of life, you're not going to be delivered. As an Israelite, of course. Back to Matthew. Back to Matthew. Matthew. And brothers and sisters, I'm trying to put all this together, but again, Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, who's going to be in tribulation? All we read was Israel. But the Christians don't want to let you know what it was. Tribulation is when they were in other lands, serving other gods among the heathen. The Bible calls that, in Deuteronomy 4:30, tribulation. This is what the Christians never wanted you to know. And when I do the podcast on tribulation, I'm going to show you. It's a twist to it. But watch this. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So I wanted to start here because it says, and the sun and the moon. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the prophets. Remember, Christ is speaking these words now out of his mouth. And remember what we read in 1 Peter 1, verse 10 and 11. His spirit was in the prophets, which the Christians avoid. You have to pay attention now. Let's go to Prophet 1, Joel. Joel 2. And I want to start, I'm just going to read verse 27. Joel 2:27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, that I am the Lord your God, and none else. None else. I'm not the Lord of anyone else's God, but you. I don't belong to other nations like they teach. I am your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. A minute. You know, to me, that looks sort of selective. Like chosen. I'm only your God. I'm not other nations' God. Yours only. Watch this. I want to show you something. Joel 2:31. The sun shall be turned into darkness. Now here it is. Christ. And the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. Here we are. The prophet saw it. Christ was a prophet as well as Joel. Reading it. And it shall come to pass when the sun and the moon get to acting funny. Remember, Before I read verse 32, 31 again. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. Who's in tribulation? Only Israel. Up under other nations, serving their gods, being left few in number. Now, and it shall come to pass, again, when the sun is turned to darkness and the moon shall not give her light, turned into blood, that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. That's what delivered is, saved. That's why I said saved first. I know it's delivered, but saved. I wanted you to know. Shall be delivered, saved. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there is deliverance. There was no deliverance from all nations when the sun and the moon get to going through the course of prophecy. The only ones that's going to be delivered is Israel. You see it. As the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. The Lord isn't calling all nations. He's calling the remnant from Zion. The Bible does not prophesy that all nations are going to be delivered in the time that the sun be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, which is not give her light. But when these signs come, we know, and it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered, saved. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be deliverance. Not all nations, them. This is what these preachers, as the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. Let's go over one verse. I got to get right to it because I'm going to show you. Let's get Joel 3, verse 15. The sun and the moon shall be darkened. Again, God showed Joel the prophet this twice. He's the only prophet God showed twice the same vision of the end. Come on now. You Christians are playing games. You Israelite Christians, y'all are playing games. Joel 3:15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Wow. Here we go. The Lord shall roar out of Zion and shall utter his voice. Wait. What now? I have to read you something, and then I'm going to come back to this verse because I want you to pay attention to a couple of words I want you to see. But first, let's look. Let's go to Jeremiah 25. Jeremiah 25. Here's prophecy now. Jeremiah 25. And we're going to start in verse 30. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words to say unto them. The Lord shall roar from on high and utter his voice. See, I want you to pay attention to utter his voice. Utter his voice. Utter his voice from his holy habitation. That's heaven. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout. So he's the one that's giving a shout. He's the one that's giving a shout. That's why Paul said, I'm coming back here. I'm coming back here. 1 Thessalonians. I'm coming back here. 1 Thessalonians 4. I'm coming back, right back here. We got to get this in order. I'm going to hurry up and put this in. Watch this. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Oh, then the we is questionable. The we is questionable. And I'm going to show you all this by the end of the podcast. We which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. I want you to pay attention. But what I wanted you to, I read that verse for a reason. But I wanted you to see that the Lord shall descend from heaven with a shout. Shout. Let's go back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 25, verse 30. Jeremiah 25 and 30. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, the Lord shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. That's heaven. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout. Paul said the same thing. The Lord shall give a shout. But Paul didn't go into detail about what's on the other side of the wall. He was only concerned about, and I'm going to show you. I'm not going to spoil it. He shall give a shout. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 said the same thing. As they that tread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth. For the Lord has a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked, which are sinners, to the sword, saith the Lord God. So here Psalms 119. Now I'm going too far but I'm going to have to skip a few things, but you will get the full understanding. Psalms 119, verse 53. Yes, brothers and sisters. Psalms 119, verse 53. Horror has taken hold upon me because of the wicked that forsake thy law. The wicked forsake the law. The wicked are sinners, lawbreakers. Proverbs 28, verse 4. And we're going back. Proverbs 28 and 4. They that forsake the law praise the wicked. See, if you forsake the law, you praise wicked men. That's your Sunday pastor behind the pulpit, your bishops and everything else. But such as keep the law, contend with them. Brothers and sisters, there's going to always be contention between us and the Sunday church. Because the Sunday church is meant to take you to the lake. They're the wicked. If you forsake them, you can't change the meaning of who the wicked are. Because you just want to prove something different. No, the wicked are sinners. See, that's why, again, no, let me do this first. Let's go back to Jeremiah. Let's go back to Jeremiah 25. Let me do this first. Jeremiah 25 and verse 31. A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth. For the Lord has a controversy with the nations, and he will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, those that break the law, to the sword, saith the Lord. Here we go. Now let's look at the sword. Let's pay attention to the sword. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. When Christ come back, he's going to kill a lot of people. Now, it's just, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. Jeremiah 25:33. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered, nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. God's going to leave them on the ground like fecal matter. That's what dung is, fecal matter. And if you don't know what fecal matter is, it's step number 2. This is the prophecy of what the Lord's going to do when he comes back from his shout with his angels. That's what he's going to do. But I want to go back and look at this. I'm going to read to a point, then we're going back to Joel. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, to say unto them, the Lord shall roar from on high and utter his voice from his holy habitation. Utter his voice. Joel. Pay attention now. Joel chapter 3. We're going to go back to verse 15. I want to read from verse 15 for a reason. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Pay attention now. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. Utter his voice. And the heavens and the earth shall shake. Remember, Christ said the same thing in Matthew 24:29. And the heavens shall be shaken. But the Lord will be the hope of his people. Ooh. But y'all to pay attention. The Bible says, and utter his voice. That's the same thing he said in Jeremiah 25, verse 30. Again, these prophets, they witnessed Christ's return. And it's graphic. Why do you think no one reads them? Oh, let's go to Ephesians, let's go to Galatians, let's go, and still don't know what they're talking about. The Lord shall, pay attention, the Lord also shall roar out of Zion. Roar from his mighty habitation. Roar, he's using the same words Jeremiah used. Roar. And utter his voice, the same thing Jeremiah 25 and 30 said, from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. The Lord will be the hope of his people in that day, while the rest of the earth gets slaughtered. You think they're going to teach this in those brick buildings on the corner? No, you'll die before you know this. You were meant to die before you understood this. Watch this. So shall ye know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. No, all nations are not coming into Jerusalem in that day. No more strangers shall not pass through her. They'll have to be brought in another way, which is another class. So much to teach, so much that's being avoided by the Christian church. All right. And it shall come to pass that in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and the fountains shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Pay attention. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. Why in that day isn't Edom, the so-called white man, have it? He doesn't have hope. In case y'all think of Egypt, it's not talking about that Egypt way back then. Egypt is Edom. Egypt stands for the house of bondage, Exodus 20:2. Egypt is the house of bondage, and Edom was the house of bondage for Israel. Pay attention. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. See what I'm saying? Their land is where Judah is. Judah is in the land of Edom, all over the earth. But should I go deeper? Should I go deeper? Because it says, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. It says land. I said lands before, but I was wrong. I can even say that. But it says land. What land? Zechariah 13:8. Real quick. Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. In all the land, again, it keeps talking about a land, and 2/3 of who is going to be cut off? Israel. In this land. Now y'all have the clue which land it is. It's going to be among the Edomites, which are the Caucasians. Israel is dying by their hands. And of course, you know who Edom is. Come on. So-called white man. Come on. But let's go back. Let's go back to the second prophet. Because Christ was the first we looked at. Let's go back to Joel. Joel, I want to get to the point. 3, verse 16. Joel 3, we're going to do it again. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. And that day, that's it. The only ones that have hope is Israel. Back down to verse 19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. There's no salvation for them. Doesn't say it. It says Edom, Egypt, the house of bondage. Edom is that Egypt, the house of bondage for Israel. For the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. All nations are not prophesied to be saved. I don't know what. Let's go to the third. Got to get right to him. Let's go to Habakkuk. Habakkuk, real quick, chapter 3. We're going to start right. I'm going to start right at the prophecy because I got to get right to it. Habakkuk 3. Now, where do I want to start? Verse 11. I want you to pay attention. Here's a prophecy. The sun and the moon stood in their habitation. Here, sun and the moon. It's the same thing. It's the same prophecy. The sun and the moon stood still in their habitations, and the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. What do you think the glittering spear is? What do you think the glittering spear is? Are you guys kidding me? Isaiah 13. I'm going to do this one verse. Isaiah 13. Isaiah 13, real quick, and I'm going to read one verse. I'll read two verses. The book of Isaiah 13, verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms and nations gathered together, and the Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. So here's a battle. Here's a battle. They come from a far country. Whoa! They come from a far country, from the ends of the earth, even the Lord. Even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. What weapons destroy lands? What weapon destroys lands? But be it in me. One more. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. I said one, but watch this. Isaiah 9 and 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise. That's why when you look at a movie, they're all going toward each other, yelling while they're hitting at people's shields, and the fight's going on. They're all screaming. It was a motivational factor for war. And garments rolled with blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What is the burning and fuel of fire? Nuclear missiles. That is the glittering spear Habakkuk is talking about. There is a war coming that is with fuel of fire, missiles. Christians aren't telling you this. Let's go back. Let's go back to the book of Habakkuk. Oh, yes. Chapter 3. Yes. Verse 11. The sun and the moon stood still in their habitations. At the light of thine arrows are what? They went. And at the shining of thy glittering spear, thine arrows, Psalms 91. Brothers and sisters, I did not mean for this many scriptures to come out, but I'm showing you what Psalms 91, verse 7. I'm going to watch this. Now, let's look at this. Psalms 91 and 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. For the arrow that flieth by day. Arrow. Watch this. Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come unto thee. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come nigh to thee. What was it? Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. The arrow that flieth by day is going to cause 1,000 to fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand. One arrow from a bow and arrow is not going to kill 1,000 people at once. One arrow from a bow and arrow is not going to kill 10,000 people at once. The arrow they're talking about is the nuclear missile. They just called it an arrow, but it was a missile. Let's go back to Habakkuk. I'm showing you the arrow. Let's go back to Habakkuk, chapter 3. Chapter 3, verse 14. No. Let me look at this. Verse 11. The sun and the moon stood still in their habitations at the light of thine arrows. Arrows. See, these arrows are, now it's saying it's arrows, but now do you know what the arrows are? The arrows are missiles. They went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. See that glittering spear? That spear that glitters is what? That arrow. Watch this. Verse 12. Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Holy wrath. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Oh, thou didst thresh the Gentiles in anger. Thou didst thresh the Gentiles in anger. Hey. Verse 13. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, not all people. Come on. Come on. Didn't say salvation will come to every nation. Israel. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even the salvation of thine anointed. That was his anointed, his people. Thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked, the sinner, by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Thou woundest the head, the kingdom of the house of the wicked. Watch this. Of the house of the wicked, of the house of the wicked. Job. And you know where I'm going. Job chapter 9. Verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Sinners. It's given to the hand of sinners. He covereth the faces of the judges. White people covering up their skin complexion over the black Messiah. Revelation 1, 14 and 15. Daniel 10, verse 5 and 6. All of a sudden now, a Messiah that was the color of brass is now pale. They covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? It's a mystery. It's a mystery. Let's go back. Habakkuk. I was going to talk about Joel. No, Habakkuk, the third prophet we're talking about. Habakkuk 3. Habakkuk 3. And verse 13. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for the salvation with thine anointed. So his people is his anointed only. Thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked, whom the earth is given to, by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Now, I'm just showing you this. We have 3 verses, 2 from Joel, 1, from Habakkuk, that says, when things start to come to an end, only salvation is for Israel. 3 verses we read. Well, chapters with verses. I meant to say witnesses. So we have 3 witnesses that only Israel is going to be saved. Joel 2, verse 32. Joel 3, verse 16. And Habakkuk 3, 13. That's 3. Let's go back to Christ, the first witness. Matthew 24, 29. Matthew 24, 29. All right. Let's look at this. I'm just going to read. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. It said the same thing in Joel 3:15, in Joel 2:31, and Habakkuk 3:11. It said the same thing in Joel 2, verse 31, Joel 3:15, and Habakkuk 3:11, the sun and the moon. Same prophecy. And the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. You should pay attention. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall the tribes of the earth mourn. Why? You see why. Mourn because you're understanding that a lot of death. Jeremiah 25, 31, 32. A lot of death, a lot of death. And they shall see the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Oh, we go. And shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet. No. The sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Here we go. Let's close the deal here. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. Here we go. Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45, verse 4. God, it's not going to work right there. Isaiah 45, verse 4. For Jacob, my servant's sake, for Israel, mine elect. God's elect is only Israel, it's not all nations. For Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. We was breaking the law. Kept the evil going. But Israel was his elect. Oh, no. Let's not play the game. The book of Psalm 65, verse 9. Real quick, I'm just get the precepts. Got to show you. And I will bring forth a seed out of Jacob, and out of Judah an inheritor of my mountains, and mine elect shall inherit it. Who is the elect again? Jacob. There's no, all nations are not his elect. They're not. It says, mine elect shall inherit my mountains, and my servants shall dwell there. All nations are not inheriting the kingdom. Come on, let's watch this. Watch this. Verse 17. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come to mind. So this is the new heaven and the new earth, the kingdom. How about that? Kingdom. Let's go down to verse 23. Let's try verse 22 and 23. This is in the new heaven and the new earth, the kingdom. They shall not build and another inhabit. The another is another nation. They shall not plant and another eat. As for the days of a tree are the days of my people. My people is Israel, and mine elect. Mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. The only elect God has is Israel. The elect is not all the church. No. Another Christian fable, another Christian lie. That's why we call Christianity the religion of lies and death. Death and hell. It's that religion, a cultish religion that lies. The only elect we see is Israel. Now, what did Paul say? Watch this. 1 Thessalonians. I love this verse. This verse here is one verse that I would make either number 1 or number 2 on my list. Prove all things. Hold fast to that which is good. And the law is that which is good. Deuteronomy 16, 17, and 18. Have the Christians from both testaments proved the elect are all nations, which they call the universal church? They can't do it. Sorry. Back to Matthew 24. Back to Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Verse 31. And he shall send forth his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. They shall gather his elect from the four winds. Who are these four winds? Who are these four winds? And who was in these four winds? Come on now. Let's get the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 137. Psalms chapter 137 and verse 7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom, and the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, destroy it, even to the foundations thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Hold up. Wait. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom, O daughter of Babylon. The children of Edom is the daughter of Babylon. We know that the children of Edom are the daughter of Babylon. Zechariah chapter 2, and let's start in verse 6. Zechariah 2 and 6. Ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds, of heaven. Who was spread abroad the four winds? Israel. Come on now. It's not that hard to think about, brothers and sisters. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. See, this was prophesied. See, every Christian likes to quote. Watch this. Let me show you what the Christians won't quote in Genesis. Let me show you something. Genesis 28. Let me show you something. This was prophesied way back in the time of Abraham. Come on. Genesis 28. Verse 14. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt be spread. Thou, Abraham's children, thou shalt be spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. You, all nations will not spread four winds, north, east, west, and south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed, when they were spread. See, you wonder why other nations are blessed more than the children of Israel? Because we're, brothers and sisters, just so deep. They're blessed because we're cursed. We were warned in Deuteronomy 28. We were warned in Deuteronomy 29. I'm not going to go there because I'm already over it. But the nation shall get up above thee, the stranger that is in thee shall get up above thee high, and thou shalt become low. Pay attention. Y'all remember that verse. I'm just showing you something. So Israel would be, this is a prophecy, Israel will be in the four winds, four corners. And it says, watch this. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad. Who spread them abroad from the west, the east, the north, and the south? Who did it? Back to Zechariah. Zechariah 2 and verse 6. Whoa. Zechariah 2 verse 6. I want you to pay attention. Ho, ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you. That's who spread us. I have spread you, not all nations, abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. Watch this. Deliver thyself, O Zion, which dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon, the Edomites. The so-called Caucasians. See, this is the prophecy against them. That's why they don't want to read it. They don't want to go over these scriptures in detail because they know it's them we're going to be delivered from, the true children. Pay attention. Ho, ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you as Israel, abroad as the four winds of heaven. Four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. Deliver thyself, O daughter of Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. The daughter of Babylon is in the four winds of heaven. So we know Israel was scattered in the four winds. So when we go back to Matthew, see, the Christian church, they better do something because we're taking our people from them. They ain't never been taught the Bible. Matthew 24:31. And he shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect, which is Israel, from the four winds. He's not gathering everybody. He's not. From one end of the earth, even to the other. But we do know from one end of the, now it says he shall gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. He's only gathering his elect. Now, focus on this, and then I'm going to end the podcast. Focus on this. Pay attention. And he shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his elect. His elect, gather them from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. From one end of heaven to the other. So while he's gathering his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, back to Jeremiah. Back to Jeremiah 25. Back to Jeremiah 25. Verse 32. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. Pay attention. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. Stop. While Christ is gathering one from one end of the earth to the other, he's killing others from one end of the earth to the other. While one's being gathered, one's being slain. Who do you think is slain? Who do you think is going to be slain? While Christ is gathering from one end, his elect from one end of the earth to the other, and the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth unto the other end of the earth. One's being gathered, one's being slain. Again, who do you think is the one being slain? The ones that have hold to the book now. The Gentiles. Which Gentiles? Luke 21. Wait a minute, let's look at this. Which Gentiles? I'm going to give you three, and then we're going to, I have to. I have to. I have to. Matthew 2019. Matthew 2019. And shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock. Who was he delivered to? Romans, Caucasians. And to scourge and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. The Gentiles he was mocked from was Rome. Luke 18, verse 32. Just a couple of. For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spitefully entreated, and spitted upon. Or spitted on, whichever one. The Caucasians know that they are those Gentiles Christ was delivered to. They know. They know. That's why. In Luke 21:24. Luke 21:24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captives unto all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Caucasians. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The Christian church knows that Caucasians are Gentiles. They know it. And these prophecies are talking about them. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Joel 3 again, verse 19. I'm going to show you that these Gentiles are Edom. I'm going to show you that these Gentiles are Edom. Joel 3:19 again. And Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. That's who's going to be desolate in the day of the Lord. Them, Edom, which means they're still on earth today. All praises to the Most High, brothers and sisters. I'm your host, the Apostle Reuben of IUPR Bible Radio. And once again, 2 Timothy 2:5. If a man strive for masteries, yet he is not crowned except he strive, which is fight lawfully. The only way we're going to get a crown is if we teach the law. All praises to the Most High, brothers and sisters. Until next Sabbath, with love and peace.